In anticipation of Dragon Age the Veilguard, I am revisiting the previous games. I already made a video on Dragon Age Origins, so this time it's Dragon Age 2's turn. A little bummed that it just has the name Dragon Age 2 and not a cool second name like the other ones, but I digress. Origins had really hyped me for any Dragon Age game, so I was expecting a lot out of the second one, but I still wanted to reach Inquisition as fast as possible. So I was one game closer to the beautiful, colorful Inquisition when I jumped into playing Dragon Age 2 with a mission. Finish the game as quickly as possible without missing out on any interesting plotline. Hopefully this time I would not have a steep learning curve with the mechanics. The thing that stuck out like a sore thumb in this game was the combat. It was so fast and flashy, it felt like a different game. We still have the pause feature, which was nice, especially since I had just gotten used to it at the end of Origins. The skill tree not only looks a lot more simplified, but it also offers the option to auto level up through the push of a button. And I have to admit, I preferred the more detailed one from Origins. It felt more organized, and it offered what seemed like a greater variety of skills and options. I like picking out my own ability scores. It makes role-playing actually feel more engaging, because I feel involved in their skill progression. We still have tactics, which was also nice, although I still had not gotten used to it. That only happened in my second playthrough on the PC. I did notice that the zoom out was not as wide as before. It made combat a little awkward, but not too much that it wasn't unplayable. But the constant spawning of new enemies, that was annoying. I'm not gonna lie. They kept appearing out of thin air, and it made combat last forever. Kirkwall is a minefield at night. You can't make 2 steps without getting ambushed by a bunch of random thugs. To say that I was disappointed with Dragon Age 2 is an understatement, but I was not too impressed with Dragon Age Origins in the beginning either, so I pushed on to reach the story. The story was enjoyable. I ignored the combat for the most part and started trying to understand who this new main character was. I was a little upset that I couldn't choose a different race as I did in Origins, but I made do. I figured they wanted to make a more streamlined story. So, we see Thetis from the point of view of a refugee fleeing the very blight your Grey Warden was trying to stop in the previous game. Along for this exodus, we have the Hawke family, with the main character being the oldest sibling, which you play. That was interesting. Sure, the world is far more condensed as we only see the city-state of Kirkwall and the few surrounding areas, but already the hook of following these refugees in a different area of Thetis had sunk in. I was banking on the story. If Origins had a clear-cut hero saving the world story, Dragon Age 2 had political city intrigue with some Qunari, friction between the Templars and mages, and family drama? In all honesty, the story is a little unfocused. In the very beginning, as we are running from the Blight, Flemeth appears in her new badass aesthetic and offers us a deal, which sounds very much like a deal with the devil. This was confusing to me because I had opted to her in my previous game for Morrigan. I just chalked it up to magic being the reason or method by which she survived. Each act has its own story, shall we say, and it isn't quite connected to each other all that much. It's all a series of things and quests that Hawke has to take on to become someone in Kirkwall and to save the city. The only thing that connects Acts 1, 2, and 3 is this weird artifact that Hawke finds in the deep roads, which comes back to be a pain. The Qunari don't really have anything to do with this idol though, so that seemed like a bit of wasted potential. It turns out that this leader of the Qunari just becomes a boss battle for Hawke, which makes Hawke even more famous for defeating him. I wasn't all that impressed with this main character story, up until everyone in their family just dies or is forced to become a Grey Warden. I have to admit though that the serial killer plotline got me somewhat emotionally invested, but all in all, it mostly just felt like a masterclass of torturing your character for entertainment. The companions were the saving grace of the whole game, but even they felt like potential emotional torture devices for Hawke. Yet even with this thinner story that had fewer stakes than Origins, I still got attached to the game, with all its flaws of weirdly spawning waves of enemies or the reused assets for building interiors. I think the Qunari plotline should have been explored more and maybe made the main antagonists. I did very much enjoy their new tiefling designs. Maybe the mages could have sought allies with the Qunari against the Templars, a conflict that would have sparked into flames because of all the friction between them. The ending though, however controversial it may be in the community, was a plus for me. It very clearly set the stage for an inquisition. It seemed like that's what it was going for, with Cassandra interrogating Varric, and then seeing her intentions at the end of the game to start an inquisition. I thought it was perfect. I still haven't gotten past the fact that Orsino just started doing blood magic in an enclosed room with Hawke and all their allies. Like, my guy, we are on the same side. Couldn't you have done blood magic closer to Meredith? The reason I say I hate this game, well, maybe hate is a strong word for it, why I was disappointed, is that every choice we make as Hawke is ultimately meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Too many mysteries remain undiscovered. Some of the biggest conflicts remain unresolved or quickly wrapped up in an unsatisfying way. No matter what you do, Anders will still enact his plan. Hawke's family will still suffer. The mages and Templars will still fight. We can say that it was exactly the point. No matter the choices, things are out of our control, and so out of our character's control too. Hawke will never remain in control, no matter what they do. And that's all fine and could be interesting, if we at least see the consequences. For as much as we are told about the animosity and tensions between the mages and Templars, we don't have as many consequences of what this can bring, apart from the initial reaction after Anders's big plan, with Meredith going off the rails. Yes, an all-out revolt does break out, but it is resolved very quickly, and we are left with a band-aid solution to a huge problem at the end of the game. In the same way, we don't see the consequences of helping Flemeth. She comes out all badass and plotting her schemes, but we don't know exactly what that is, what she plans on doing, or how it could affect, in a very bad way probably, Thetis. Or this mysterious artifact that we find also remains a mystery, as we don't really uncover what it was, who made it, or what it was used for. Other than it fueling Meredith's wrath, we don't find out much more about it. Sure, we will get some form of explanation in a later game and in a story in Tevinter Nights, but it is still a mystery, and it's still being used now in promotional material for Dragon Age the Veilguard as some sort of important artifact. It's been 2 games already, and we don't know what this thing is. So, with this weaker story and flashier game mechanic and reused assets, the one thing I was counting on next for Dragon Age 2 were the characters. The companions were maybe the best part of the game for me. I really enjoyed their stories and motivations. Even Anders, although I suspect that he was going to do something stupid, he was way too obvious. But all in all, it was quite the adventure to help them out and uncover more of the world through them. Meryl with her mirror made me once again want to play an elf and explore the lore they had going on for them. I thought it was fascinating, especially how elves are treated in this world. No longer the typical Tolkien-esque or D&D noble-looking ethereal elves with poised postures and wisdom beyond their years. No, these elves are outcasts and minorities. Their mistreatment makes them quite the tragic characters. I don't know, I like them as underdogs. They were very interesting. In the same vein, we get Fenris, with a different facet of that mistreatment, as a former slave looking to secure his freedom. Evelyn was a good, tanky character, and her romantic subplot was quite funny. It made the dreary setting of Kirkwall a little more fun. Isabella was wasted in my playthrough because I didn't manage to convince her not to betray my hawk. I'll have to replay the game and see her plotline to the end. I had found her intriguing though. For as much as this character is beloved in the community, I didn't feel like there was much there. It's a little disappointing that they basically made Varric this bard character but limited him to being just a storyteller and a billboard of quests. He was just there to push Hawk to do this or that, but it mostly just felt like an exposition dump whenever I talked to him. I did appreciate the snarky comments and jokes that he makes around everyone else in the party. I can't say anything about Sebastian. I didn't have the DLC, so he wasn't in my game. I loved Bethany as a sweet, caring sister, and she was great as a mage when I didn't want to take Anders. Carver got killed, so next time I'll have to play a mage. And Anders. Oh, Anders. What can I say about him? He was very different from Awakening, and in a way he was a little more complex. I liked his new, shall we say, ambitions. It was a new way in which the whole structure of Templars and mages was explored, and it made for quite a dramatic story up until the end when it all blows up in our faces. With the last battle won, where my hawk tried to help the innocent mages that had to suffer because of what an extremist had done in their name, my game was over. And the setup with Cassandra at the end wanting to form the Inquisition got me so hyped for the next game. I was very curious what the repercussions of Anders' action would have on this Inquisition. I already had theories in my head, and based on how real-life Inquisitions have gone down in history, I was sure it was going to be bloody and dramatic.